Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
Oh man, 10 days until Christmas. If you celebrate, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people out there are doing Christmas. We're doing Christmas.
Come on.
Yeah. Look at that shirt. How is your Christmas?
Yeah.
Question mark. And it's Buddy the Elf. It says merry, joyful, thrilling. So all just positive feedback.
Yeah. Just a lot of positivity going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy that you're being positive. I'm not really in the holiday spirit yet. I don't know. It's just, Come on. I haven't been holly and jolly this month.
Clock's ticking, pal.
I know. I got 10 days to be holly and jolly. What do you recommend that I do?
I mean, have you thought about waking up and having like a nice warm cup of cocoa, maybe, and throwing a mallow or two in there, and then just having Christmas music lightly ballied about throughout the house? Maybe just throw on a movie of sorts, like any random movie. Throw on Elf, may I suggest? I mean, you gotta pump the vibes, dude. You gotta pump the vibes.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like it's probably because like I was robbed of all like kind of like the fun years of like being a father figure, because like now Train's oldest is 17. So instead of, doing all those things and like watching the Christmas movie, she's like, I'm going to my friend's house. Like we're going to a fire tonight. And like, so like all like the, like the younger years when like, the Christmas spirit and the magic, like that was just all cut out for me.
I was doing this shit way before I started collecting sex trophies. Like this was my vibe. I love Christmas. I love Christmas.
I do too.
Outside of Halloween, I think this is easily my wife and I's favorite holiday. I mean, yeah, we love it. We got fucking blow ups going. We got candy cane. Our entire like driveway, our long driveway is pumped with light up candy canes all along the thing. Got a massive wreath. We're dialed. We are dialed.
Jayhay, you in the holiday spirit?
Yeah, I am. And I got to agree wholeheartedly with DB. It's atmospheric. It's about creating the environment passively. So it's about Christmas music in the car and Christmas music at home and Christmas movies on TV. I know I'm reiterating what DB said to a large extent, but I believe that's what it's all about, because that's what we do. And that's because as I get older, I find it difficult or more difficult to naturally get into the spirit of the holidays, as opposed to when I was a kid, where Christmas was so much my favorite holiday. Like all the other holidays didn't matter. It was Christmas. And
that was the Super Bowl.
That was the Super Bowl for me. I'm all about the feels and the family and the cliche memory making and all that sort of stuff. And, and so I do think that having that like low hum of Christmas around you in the month leading up to it is very important.
So I got to turn up the Christmas is what you're saying.
Yeah, you got to turn up the Christmas. Right now the Christmas meter, you're starting to we need you to we need that fucking thing go. Yeah, how else is a sleigh going to move, Jared? How else is Santa's sleigh going to roll? You got to help.
I think for me, I think part of the issue is, we'll throw Christmas music on in July just to be like, that's random. All right. Like it's not like a once a year thing. Like sometimes you may pull up in the middle of summer and, we're bumping the NSYNC Christmas album for some reason. So I don't know.
Yeah, you got to switch gears. You got to ramp it up right now. It's a wonderful time of year. It's a great opportunity to just, to embrace what you have.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Another one. I think a new tradition that might be great for you and your family, because you're talking about how you kind of missed the younger years, but a great opportunity that you have is still to embarrass them during their most vulnerable years. And so what you could do is you could take them all to the mall and you could make them stand in line for a photo with you and Train and Santa Claus, because let me tell you, there was nothing more mortifying in my life as a kid than right after we moved to a new state, and I was just starting a new high school, when my mom insisted on continuing our tradition of me and my two brothers getting photos with Santa Claus, and I'm walking into the mall in St. Charles, Illinois, and I'm like, all I want for Christmas this year is for fucking nobody to see me while I'm here. Like that's all I want. That's if you give me that, then I'll be happy. And so yeah, they're right in that age where it could be the most embarrassing for them. So give that a shot.
Yeah,
that's
fun
a great
for you
idea. At least.
Yeah. We've definitely discussed this. It's just a matter of, getting everyone on board to be, because they all do cheer. So it's like during the week they've got cheer, the weekend they'll hang out with their friends. But now that cheer is over, we are in the Santa Claus vortex. So
yeah, well now you need to. This is what else you do. You let the oldest one, who you said is going out and screwing around with her friends. Tell her, hey, grab a couple of your homies from the cheer squad. We are going to go to. I don't know if you guys have this out there. I would like to think you do. Like a neighborhood that is decked out, like where all of their lights are. Like we live in one of those neighborhoods. There's another neighborhood there here locally that each and every house is basically in direct competition with the one across the street and the one on either side. And it's just, it's awesome. And you walk through, we're fucking drinking cocoa and having a great time. There's music blasting. People have fake snow out and fake snowball fights. They got tables set up to do little crafts and shit. You could stop by, make a fucking popsicle stick reindeer. Like there's cool shit going on. Like I've long said, I told Meg, I would be running for HOA president, and my entire platform would be to offer free HOA dues for the year if you win the Christmas light decoration contest. And that's a way to just get people involved. Like, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, like there was a neighborhood in Saugus that did that, what you're talking about, like the crazy Christmas lights, was notorious for it, like throughout the state, not just like a Saugus thing. And this is the first year, I think one of the houses moved away. The other one had some sort of like big household expense. So like they were like, we can't do it this year. So it was just like, bam, it went from like, holy shit, like this is the place to be during Christmas time in Saugus to like now it's just a couple houses.
We even had that shit in the hood, homie, in Stockton, Meadow Avenue, like where the trees overhang the street and neighbors would like, hey, I got extra lights. I'll wrap some shit around your tree. Ready, go. Like it was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can help. Go peep some lights.
You know what else is going to help?
Tell me right
win
now.
Some money on the Underdog Fantasy app.
Factual. Pay for those lights. Exactly.
Yeah, I could do that because Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. You already know that, though. You got to play their pick'em game, especially during the NFL playoffs. The Cowboys making it this year?
That's not part of the ad read. You should probably just...
I'm asking as part of like, I'm trying to learn...
No, we're getting a big old fucking lump of coal on defense, Jared. That's what's fucking happened. A massive lump of coal on defense. So no, we're going to be at home. We're going to be at home doing fucking nothing in the postseason. Absolutely so, like, nothing.
This is like Dak must be in like the MVP running or no?
No, Dak is not in the MVP running.
It would have been such a different conversation if we had recorded this podcast 24 hours ago. Oh, what a different conversation it could have been. But then a guy who couldn't even throw straight for most of the season cut up the Cowboys defense to the tune of, what was it, 3 passing and a rushing?
Yeah, we got fucking grittied into the end zone. Homeboy's doing the gritty walking into the end zone. Like, I can't even don't even start with me right now.
I'm sorry to hear about that. But do make sure that you sign up with the promo code Jared. That's Jared. To get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Jared. Yeah, shout out to everyone who is checking out the interviews. Cody Ponce, Greg Amsinger, those are doing really well on YouTube. If you haven't watched or listened, check them out on the Underdog Baseball YouTube channel. A lot of content. We're doing the streams. Streams are back. Playback's dead, but we will be resuming regardless of that on Thursday, as scheduled, with the MLB Classic game rewatch, where the concept is we spin a wheel to determine the game type. So like, no hitters, perfect games, milestone games, all-time postseason games, monumental regular season games, what have you. And then from there, that opens up another wheel to where we spin that wheel, and then we would determine which game we're going to be watching that night. Last week, we watched Game 5 of the 2001 World Series. That was between, of course, the Yankees and the D-backs. And then we opened up our MLB Classic rewatch segment with Kenny Rogers' perfect game.
Perfection.
You just never know what you're going to get. You know, could be a playoff game, could be a perfect game. You never know.
Could be an hour 40, could be 5.5 hours or whatever the last game was.
Right. You never know. So tune in on Thursday at 8 p.m. That will be our next MLB Classic rewatch game. But okay, some things happened since the last time we met last week. The Mets and Jorge Polanco have agreed to a 2-year deal. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but when you lose Pete Alonso, when you trade Brandon Nimmo, when you lose Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers specifically, like, do I like Jorge Polanco as a player? Absolutely. I think he's a very good player. We saw that in the postseason. He was an excellent player. But when you lose almost the entire core, the identity of your franchise, I don't think that a Jorge Polanco makes me feel better, but I guess if you're the Mets in terms of talent, you started the offseason here, then you came back down here, and now you're like right here, I guess. Well, you moved back in the right direction, but like you're still not a net positive.
You're trying to climb that ladder. You're trying to reach the next rung, and I can appreciate it. What really kind of felt it make it feel like lipstick on a pig. And when I say that with all due respect to what Polanco represents, because he represents the lipstick, and lipstick makes you look good. And when you got good lipstick, you look even better. So he's great, top of the line lipstick. But the problem is the pig is the deal that had Alonso leave. That's the pig. So the idea that you go and get a guy who is primarily a second baseman, spent the majority of his time split between second base and DH, and you're now going to plug him in at first base to replace your franchise guy. So that's automatically kind of like a little slap in the face, so to speak. But where my mind went was, all right, how's this going to shake out for the rest of the roster, and what does that look like? Because you've got Semien in town. You've obviously got Jeff McNeil, who is going to spend time at second base, going to spend time in the outfield. And I mean, like, I think the numbers kind of bear out, like, and we've already talked about the clubhouse, but the numbers tell you, like, the further away from Francisco Lindor Jeff McNeil is, the better he plays. Because at second base, Jeff McNeil is definitely a player that is at second base. But when Jeff McNeil goes elsewhere, Jeff McNeil seems to perform a lot better. Just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. At second base, he slashes 215, 308, 380. That's a 688 OPS. And that was at 77 games at second base. So quite literally the double play partner of Francisco Lindor. When he slides to the outfield, very, very different production for Jeff McNeil. 294, 382, 447 slash. That's an 829 OPS, and that was across 31 games for Jeff McNeil. So, to my point, do you keep Jeff McNeil around because his name has been volleyed about in regard to potential trade piece? Or what do you have? Because now you're going to have Polanco at second base. Or are you? Because you have Semien at second base. So that means for me, they've got to do some figuring out there. But I mean, Polanco, right? Polanco, very good. Very, very good. 35 games at second base. He had 89 at DH. He's the second highest. He had the second highest WRC plus for second baseman behind only Ketel Marte. I love the idea that he's a part of this equation, but where he's at in the equation, where he fits, or how they choose to plug him in, and what they do with the rest of the parts that I just mentioned, I think that's honestly the more intriguing piece.
Jayhay?
Yeah, I agree. Polanco's good. He makes them better. It fits with. I saw some people say, "How does this fit with their run prevention idea?" And I think, moving a primary second baseman over to first base / DH and having Semien there at second base, I do think that upgrades your defense overall. Even if Polanco is relatively unproven at first base, I like his chances of adapting there, especially relative to the standard that was set from the previous first baseman defensively. But I just can't, and to back up or whatever what Dallas was saying, like, Polanco is coming off of a season where he set career bests in a lot of important stats and was at or near his best in a lot of other significant stats: weighted runs created plus, OPS plus, second most homers, second best slugging, second best WOBA. It just feels like, I guess my concluding thoughts are two. A, it just feels like it's just a little too cute. Like it feels like we're just doing like simultaneously too much and not enough if you're David Stearns as this front office. And also, like, this makes them better, but the way Jared started this whole conversation off, they're not moving forward, in my opinion, relative to the product that they put on the field last year. Like, overall, they're not advancing the cause yet. So, like, these signings are fine. And if it's capped off with a transaction that makes all of this kind of tie together and make sense, great. But if we're just doing these kind of cutesy little, smaller deals because we're uncomfortable with the Alonso contract or Diaz wanted to leave and that kind of stuff, I just feel like this team is going to end up being closer to or mediocre and good than anything significant.
Well, in terms of the run prevention, they go get a Fromber, they go get a Zach Gallen just to kind of help. Then I think things look a little different. And I want to say this about the second baseman moving over to first base. I mean, when you talk about defensive positioning these days, and I've talked a lot about this on A's broadcast, the first base position is being asked to do more than it ever has in our game in terms of where you're starting and your ability to get to balls, your ability to range. So I think really the only question is how he's going to adjust, quite literally, receiving the throws, right? Being able to work the bag and put himself in a position where he can dig balls out, where he can shorten the distance between him and a throw from a second baseman who might be ranging to his left out into right field, or a play where he's got to reach out and he's got to dig a ball out, because it's one thing to be able to field these short hops knowing that you have a throw coming after it, but now you're on the receiving end of these short hops. So from a athleticism perspective, I like the idea of trying to see how this can play out because you've got a guy who can go get it. What I also consider is whether or not that starts to create any sort of chaos, because he knows he can get to certain balls. He knows he has the range to make a play on certain balls, but is he going to be able to stop himself short at the line of demarcation where he needs to get back to the bag so whoever is playing second can do their job as well? Because the last thing you want to do is end up having your pitchers field more throws from a moving second baseman on the move as a pitcher than you need to. That can be problematic.
I know it's like an odd thing to criticize after making a move that we all like, but how is this acceptable? If you pay all that money for Juan Soto, how could you enter year two not even marginally, but like significantly worse than you were the year before? How can you do that?
I would only say that you're not guaranteed to be as competitive as you could possibly be year in, year out through the life of a contract that is going to extend as far as Soto's. So if you're great in year one and you're competitive in year one, and you do seemingly take a step back roster-wise in year two, there's still time left for that not to be the case, but it's not guaranteeing that year three is going to be the same or year four is going to be the same. So it's an opportunity to retool, even in the face of losing franchise and extremely impactful players. Because I think with the time that Nimmo spent there and with the time that Alonso spent there, that's what also creates the rub for Mets fans, is like, these were our boys, man. Like, these were our dudes. And now they're gone. And fucking Timmy Trumpet is going to be playing in Hollywood as well. Like, that's a kick in the dick too. So you have three guys that have helped and been a major part of what the Mets have done, all leaving town. And it almost feels like unless you go and get the marquee guys, the Fromber at the top of the rotation list, the Kyle Tucker at the top of or the Alex Bregman at the top of the position player market, like unless you're making those moves, it almost feels like you're inevitably going to fall short because of what you've said goodbye to.
Yeah. They gotta make some sort of splash. Like Jorge Polanco, like losing Alonso, Diaz, and Nimmo, and then adding Polanco it's not good, man. It's not good.
Yeah, it's tough to swallow, man. It's tough to swallow. It does. It feels like a lump of coal.
Do you think that, like, I'll ask Jayhay, do you think that there's a 100% chance, or call it a 99% chance, that they add some sort of marquee free agent?
I would have said yes, but listening to Stearns talk, like, so they are there any remaining, so the only remaining marquee bat free agent that I've seen them connected to is Murakami, correct? And his where he slots in is kind of eye of the beholder stuff at this point, because we're just not sure. But like, so if that's the case, we're not seeing them connected directly to any significant free agent bat other than him. And Stearns is going on the record and saying that they don't like giving out long-term deals to pitchers, or whatever it is, whatever exactly he said. That was the essence of it. Where does that leave you? Because Dallas keeps saying Framber. I keep thinking Framber. Their words don't seem to be suggesting that they're going to end up going down that path, unless it's just a public negotiation ploy. So I think the more we go down this offseason, the more I'm thinking that I'm just not on the same page with David Stearns, and I'm not on the same page with how one would react coming off of signing Juan Soto to a lifetime contract, like you said, and having him on the team in his prime years and taking a step back, at least on paper, in year 2. And like, listen, I know it's last season. Last season's Mets were a disgrace. That was a disgraceful finish to the season. Like, they collapsed. And like, I'm not saying that makes them morally problematic. Like, it's not a moral commentary. It's that baseball team fucking disintegrated. And I know they're trying to get fresh blood in, but I also think that, like, if they were an 83 win team last year, and even that was built on maybe kind of an iffy foundation, and we're taking a talent step back in 26, like, just where does that leave you? I don't know. It's all very, and then there's the soft factor too of, like, the Steve Cohen era was supposed to be a change in the perception of the Mets and the PR environment of the Mets, from the cheap Wilpon mismanagement era to this. And I'm not saying that this era is the Wilpon era, because I think there are very key differences in how the team's being run. But you do see a lot of frustration, or at least I see and hear a lot of frustration from Mets fans about how, like, it doesn't feel different enough. Like, it just feels like we're still waiting for that largesse to really manifest itself in a way outside of Juan Soto's contract.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. Is I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that Steve Cohen is still a businessman, and he's all about business, man. And so if Jayhay, he got excited
I get it,
about,
but that's
about
not how it was marketed to
piece.
Everybody. That's not how everybody talked about it. They were like, "Oh, Big Daddy Cohen!" Like, yeah, baby.
Trust me, I was the first one that I was saying, look, Uncle Stevie's about to change the game. Uncle Stevie is about to change the game.
Exactly. That was the tone.
And I think what has happened is there's a realization, to an extent, where the team has to come to him, and it's not something that he's unaware of, but going, "Hey, Steve, we know what you're all about, and we know what you're willing to do. We just want to make sure that you understand, like, we're going to get to a point where we're paying more in tax to have this player, and maybe him and another couple players, than other teams are paying their entire roster. And if you're okay with that, well, then we can continue to move forward and be as aggressive as you would like us to be, or at least as maybe we talked about initially. But I don't want to call it like a coming down effect, but you got the shiny piece in Soto, and you have now seemingly made moves that would sort of help you balance the books. And that is not how things were being sold. That is not how this approach was being marketed. That's why the Mets fans feel like they've been kind of, is this a sleight of hand? Like, what the fuck? I thought we were, I don't want to say all in, but I thought we were ready to play a different game based on what we were being sold. Because we understand if that's not going to be the approach, but we weren't sold that. We were sold that shit's going to be different. And if going and getting Juan Soto was the big difference, okay, maybe that is different. But what else has followed to continue to propel that thought forward? And that's where people are going, well, Nothing, man. Nothing's being done. And that's why I think it could be very well could be a sense of we got to reel it in and we have to balance this thing out, whether you like it or not.
I don't want to open this can of worms, but it's very hard to hear this discussion and not have the thought of like, you think Juan Soto has any regrets right now? I don't think he has any regrets financially. Like when that check clears, I'm sure he's just fine. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like, I don't know, I want to win a World Series and I want to be in an environment where I can enjoy myself and be myself.
Like as far as some of the contract demands and things of that nature and having them met, I do not believe that he can be in a place of regret. You got to wear it. Like when you go and you are presented with the game plan moving forward or the blueprints of organizations moving forward. And he talked about this with Washington, right? Like sitting down and getting a feel for where they were headed and what was going to be done to either be competitive, stay competitive, maintain a competitiveness. I just didn't see that being the best place for me. Okay, so then how about what you're getting now? Well, a lot of it is based on financial compensation. And I'd have to believe, like, to an extent that Juan Soto felt like he was going to be supplemented, that his presence on the roster was going to be impactful because they were willing to keep stars around him. And if that wasn't the case, bring new stars in, however that needed to happen. And if it's not happening, then there may be a point where you feel like, hey, look, my flights for the family are taken care of. Families never looked better in their new wardrobe. Love the seats that we're sitting in. But I don't really have any help. And I thought that was also going to be a part of this. Like, so where are we at there? What's happening there? And if you're Steve Cohen, what would your response be? Hey, man, we gave you this money and you've performed. We're going to have to figure out how to supplement that, though. And that's on us. And it's going to take some time. Is that what you want to hear? If you're Juan Soto, it's going to take some time. To my point about year 2, maybe not being as attractive as you thought it would be. Like, fuck, are we already here? This is year 2, and I've already kind of got to hit pause on where we're at in terms of competitiveness. That's probably not what you want to hear as the marquee guy, as the face of the franchise. That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not necessary to get into this big thing about Juan Soto, but I don't know. I wouldn't be pumped about how things have gone so far, but we're only 10% of our way into the contract? Not even?
Yeah, we got time.
So, yeah, we got plenty of time. Were you guys surprised at all when you saw that Merrill Kelly agreed to a 2-year deal with the DBacks? Because it looked like they were trying to shed payroll. Like, it's not like it's crazy money or anything like that. It's $40 million over 2 years, but for a team that was kind of looking to move payroll and move, like Ketel Marte, for example, why does it make sense for them to bring back Merrill Kelly?
Well, I think maybe it's because of the cost and based on what everybody else in the field is offered or is probably going to fetch, I should say. That might be the most cost-effective move for them to solidify or help solidify a part of their team that they're going to need to kind of remain that way to stay competitive. Because we're talking about a dude who can, when healthy, definitely account for innings, right? And the D-back starters last year, I know they were top 5, I think 3rd in all of baseball in terms of innings out of their starting rotation. Little under middle of the pack in terms of overall ERA. But for Merrill Kelly, this is a dude who, if you look at his production, whether it's through ERA or FIP, I think those have both kind of mirrored the success that he's had. This is a good get for a team in the D-backs who have a rotation that is going to need help. I mean, you got Erod coming off a year where, and really frankly, a couple years where he's been dealing with some shit off the field. And hopefully this is a year where he's been able to put all of that behind him and can kind of move forward. But with Mike Soroka, a part of this rotation, that presents a question mark for you. And so if Merrill Kelly's a cost-effective answer, if he's a cost-effective answer to what you're trying to solidify, then I think it made sense for the D-backs to go this route because, with Zach Gallen in the building, they Nobody knows him better than they do, and they know what he's going to cost. And maybe they felt like, well, Merrill Kelly on a 2-year piece, as opposed to what Gallen might be asking for or fetching, is probably the pool that we're swimming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the D-backs are trying to thread a needle here. I think they're trying to retool without rebuilding, without tearing down, without doing anything like that, because I think they've correctly assessed that they're too good for a teardown, but probably not good enough to really seriously compete with the Dodgers, or maybe even, be in the wild card position that they want to be in. So I think that's why you're hearing on surface level conflicting ideas like trade Ketel Marte, sign a 36-year-old Merrill Kelly for $40 million. I think the terms are movable. I think that's key. I think, if they are out of contention in June or in July, and once again, his name comes up, I think it's at a price point where teams would be willing to engage with the Diamondbacks on a deal. I also think, this reminds me sort of the Charlie Morton Tampa Bay Rays deal that he signed, which I think was 2 years, $30 million at the time, but with inflation, that was 5-6 years ago. Same type of deal, similar age, similar level of performance coming off of or entering the deal. Merrill Kelly's good, but he's not somebody that was going to command 4 or 5 years at his age, and so if the D-backs are trying to thread that needle, to Dallas's point about soaking up the innings and stuff like that, I think that's relevant, and he provides them with optionality moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, he's going into his age 37 season. So I don't know. It's interesting that, guy spends his whole career with the D-backs, gets traded to the Texas Rangers at the deadline this past summer, and finds his way back to the D-backs. It's not often that you trade a player and then they're like, yeah, I would like to come back. Usually that's the end, at least for a while. Sometimes players will find their way back later in their careers, but Merrill Kelly immediately back to the D-backs. Nice little reunion there. And the Maikel Garcia extension, a 5-year piece for a player that really it looked like the Royals were like, we need to see one good year out of you and we'll lock this shit up. So it's a 5-year extension, and it's not crazy. He's guaranteed $57.5 million, club option for a 6th year. But this past year, he was fucking. I feel like people don't understand how good he was.
Great.
I mean, obviously he was an all-star, but we're talking about a 6-win player that could play. You name the position, he can play it. And that's quite the weapon to have in your arsenal. He's got a Gold Glove, finished 14th for MVP. But name a position that he didn't play last year, like fucking catcher.
Right. I don't think he pitched. But yeah, no, to your point, like this is a dude who can roam all around the infield, put the bat on the ball. He's a good defender, and the fact that he's a good defender in multiple positions obviously helps. So I think for the Royals, who are trying to figure out different ways to upgrade their offense, if you see somebody young who can make an impact and you can lock that in for the foreseeable future for them over the next 5 years, then why not? Why not? If it's cost effective for them as well, why would you not do this? Because they have major questions that are still trying to answer. I know they've, tried to upgrade their outfield, and they have with a move that we'll probably get to a little later here. But that has been a big part of what the Royals have to figure out, is who outside of like Pasquatch and Sal and Bobby Witt Jr. are helping them out.
I think this is an absolute no-brainer for the Royals. It's at a price point where, listen, he could get worse and it still works out okay for them. Like this could, if we're judging it simply by wins above replacement, 5.86, whatever, like if that's the best we ever see from him, that this contract can still work out just fine for the Royals, given, the defensive versatility that Jared cited. He's got a profile, like his strikeout rate was one of the dozen or so lowest in Major League Baseball last season. So I think, I just think he's such a valuable player, even if he gets 10 to 15% worse, that there's no downside to the Royals getting this deal done.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm receiving a lot of backlash for my tweet about the World Baseball Classic defensive alignment. And I said, we might run the table, honestly. And there's a lot of people that are questioning that
Buddy.
And
Murica hasn't even posted their roster yet. We haven't finalized it. What are you talking about?
We don't care.
Oh, you better care.
We don't care.
You better care.
You know what? To all the people are saying, why is he saying we? You're obviously you're gringos and you don't understand. So everyone on the island, they know the deal. Like I am Dominican. So anyone that has a problem with me saying we in reference to the Dominican Republic, get to the back of the line. Grab a ticket, get to the back of the line.
You just wait, pal. You just wait. These colors don't run. Okay. They're going to be running all over the DR.
Yeah. The Vladdy Jr. is committing to Team DR. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look at this fucking roster. Joe Ram DH, Vladdy at first, Marte at second, Perdomo at short, Machado at third, Soto in left, Julio in center, Tatis in right. Who's stopping us?
USA.
No.
USA. That's who, buddy. Like us, eh? That's who's stopping you.
No, I disagree. Heavily disagree. Kenley Jansen is signing with the Tigers. I mean, I respect it. This dude, he had a pretty damn good year this year. He was good, but he's openly telling you, I'm sure all interested teams, I only pitch one inning, letting you know that right now. I only pitch one inning, and I am the closer because I'm only still playing because I want saves. He wants to collect as many saves as he can before he retires. That's all he cares about. He wants to go into the Hall of Fame. Like, if you're saving games and you're helping your team win, but at the same time, like, you're not getting a guy who's willing to do it all for you, because that's not who he is at this point in his career. He's not, hey, Kenley, we need you for 6 outs. That's nice. You can get 3. If they're in the 9th and we have a lead, that's when you can pitch me. So I guess, it is what it is with Kenley. He's a good pitcher. He's good. He's a great reliever, but he's not focused on winning a World Series as much as he is focused on getting into the Hall of Fame.
And I know, like, I'm going to lightly touch on it. I do. And how many times is this opportunity going to present itself? Should they have a day off the next day and they need valuable innings accounted for when they're down, is Kenley an option? Can he be an option? I want to believe that he has to be an option. I want to believe that conversation can be had, because if you're the Tigers and you think you have other options down there to do his job, then you would almost ask, well, why do you bring Kenley in? Well, I think it's because you understand what comes with him. But they just brought in Kyle Finnegan, right? They just locked up Finnegan. Yes. And they've got Vest down there.
Just days prior.
Right. So it's not like there aren't options to do the job. So I would like to think that it could be a matter of, hey, if there's a soft landing, a soft save for you to grab, then by all means, we would love to see how that can work out for us and you over the long haul. If that option is not there consistently, are you prepared if this is the 3rd day in a row where we need somebody and you've already gone those 2? Because I know this just based on conversations I've had with people who are very familiar with Kenley, that he would want the ball. He would want the ball. Like how he feels, be damned, he wants the opportunity. So that's a conversation that I think he and AJ are probably going to have, or will continue to massage in both directions as the season unfolds.
To me, this is just adding a capable arm to a bullpen that really needed capable arms. And it's the classic case of putting Kenley in and maybe putting him in a specific spot or situation allows other people. There is a trickle-down effect for that in the bullpen. And I think that's most notably felt with Vest and what he brings, and the idea that with his ground ball skill set, you could be employing him in a way that is more ad hoc and advantageous to the situation, as opposed to a pre-Kenley Jansen bullpen where you might have had to slot him into a more rigid role, or a role with more regular expectations or regular usage. Yeah, more definite. That's exactly the word I would have liked to have come up with originally. So that's the Tiger side of it. They needed him. He's still effective. Last season was an interesting one in that there was a lot to like about Jansen's season, but also the fact that, that strikeout rate keeps going down, down, down. And I know that's not the entire part of his game anymore and hasn't been for a long time, but there will be a point at which a 37, 38-year-old reliever will just stop being effective. So there's always that risk involved with even on a one-year deal. And then there's just the historical significance, which I'm about as disinterested in career saves as a Hall of Fame barometer as you could possibly be. But to your point about what he's interested in and getting into the Hall of Fame, he's 2 saves behind Lee Smith for third all time. He's not going to catch the top 2. Like, that's just, I don't think, if Kenley Jansen pitches until he's 50, then he can catch the top 2. But that's the only way that's going to happen. But he can absolutely catch Lee Smith. And if he finishes his career third all time in saves, given the standard that's been set, I'm not really sure how you end up keeping him out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a major, I don't want to say restructuring of voting. I think there is going to be a big adjustment and a perspective shift in how relievers are valued, because it's, and whether you like it or not, as the game evolves, we have to value how players are being used and how they're performing under the constraints of the game and the strategy that has them being deployed in a certain manner. You cannot take away from these guys. You have to start to value how they are being utilized. And Kenley is like, he's the last of the old dogs in terms of going and getting the save and racking that number up. And if he's also pitching in a
Kimbrel's still out there somewhere.
What's that?
Kimbrel's still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
He's an old dog. They're neck and neck.
Well, I mean, look, for the entirety of this podcast, we have talked about how their trajectories have been very similar to each other, and where that trajectory has hopefully continued to lead them.
Happy for Kenley. I just know that his mentality of like, I'm just here to get saves has ruffled feathers in clubhouses in the past. So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of feathers can be ruffled if you've never posted a single season with an ERA approaching 4. Not even 1.
I want to talk Munetaka Murakami. I do, because his deadline to sign with a major league team is December 22nd at 5 p.m. And I was watching Ken Rosenthal this morning on Foul Territory, and he was kind of saying, like, just because there hasn't been a lot of buzz around his market doesn't mean that he doesn't have one. I watched a YouTube video that Jolly Olive did on Murakami, talking about his like the posting fee, how that's calculated. I'm just going off the top of my head, but like it's it's like 20% for the first 25 you get taxed on, and then the next 25 it's 15. So basically, yeah, like he gets like the posting fee is a percentage based on what like you pay him in segments. But this is a player that there's been some, I want to say, unfair negative buzz around. What do I mean by that? Well, first and foremost, some of it is fair. Some of it actually is fair. Like the defensive. So originally Murakami was a catcher that got moved to third base, and it was not a very good third baseman. So he projects more as a first baseman in the big leagues. But the swing and miss is something that gets brought up a lot, and his ability to hit high velocity gets brought up a lot. As it pertains to the defense, yes, fair. Like, I don't think that he's going to see third base a single day in the big leagues. But as far as the swing and miss stuff goes, I would lead with Shohei Ohtani's strikeout percentage was actually higher than Murakami's before he came over from Japan. And when we look at the velocity concerns, no one had these same concerns about Ohtani, and Ohtani at the time before coming over, he had one hit, against 93 plus. And Dallas, you would remember better than me because you were super into it. Like, obviously, we heard a lot about you, the Japanese Babe Ruth. Here comes Shohei Ohtani. I remember it wasn't Jeff Passan who wrote the article. It was no. It wasn't his opinion. It was a Jeff Passan article, but I think it was like a scout's opinion that Ohtani was basically a high school bat coming over from Japan.
He was basically going to have the bat knocked out of his hand.
Yes. Yeah.
And that his future was going to be on the mound. And I mean, look, I've always mentioned the adjustment I watched Yoenis Cespedes make, and based on what was being talked about for him, like, he's going to be able to make the adjustment to the velocity, he's going to be able to make the adjustment to the swing and miss stuff that Major League Baseball offers. And I will just remind folks that Shohei Ohtani is as diligent of a worker at his craft as there is. Like, this is an individual who has multiple times just sort of locked himself in a baseball lab and addressed what he feels are his shortcomings, and has only revealed himself to eat sustenance, to continue to fuel the machine and get back in the lab and just get better. So one of the questions you have is, what does the work ethic for Murakami look like, and is he willing to put in that work? I want to believe he is, because I got to believe that he wants to be great. He has the makings of an individual who I think could be extremely impactful. But newsflash, pal, you want to know what we focus on the mound these days? Swing and miss shit and high velocity. And that's what he's going to be contending with, is swing and miss shit and high velocity from everybody. So it's now going to be a matter of, you've been playing this game on, I don't want to call it intermediate, but you've been playing this game on maybe medium level difficulty. You're about to enter Hall of Fame level, because everybody's pumping 95 plus. Everybody, to an extent, has swing and miss shit. Everybody has a put away pitch when they get run out there. And you're going to be facing that night in, night out. You're not going to have the luxury of seeing the same arm 3 times in an at bat or 3 times in a game. You might get 2 peeks at him, and that's going to be that. And making those adjustments are going to be something else he has to contend with. So I can understand the threat or the hesitation of projecting this individual, because we know what he's going to have to face. And if there's questions around swing and miss stuff in a league that does not present the same sort of velocity and movement challenges, well, then I think it bears to reason that that's going to be a big thing that we're keying in on. Can he catch up? Can he put the bat on the ball consistently? Because if he can't, then the numbers and everything you like about him are going to look very different.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jer.
No, go ahead.
No, I just think he's fascinating. I think it's fascinating how much more how much more attention there is to these guys' statistical profiles and their possible strengths and weaknesses than there were even 5 years ago, when this sort of analysis was being done on players coming over from foreign leagues. Like, the idea that there was a robust internet debate about Murakami's ability to hit velocity and people being able to cite stats and that kind of sort of stuff, I think is great and really, really interesting. I think it was Tyler Millibars was the first guy that I saw who posted about, I think it was an Okamoto Murakami comparison a couple of months ago, and it was relative to their abilities to hit velocity. And, he was like, what else do you need to know? I favor Okamoto, I think, at the time. And I'm sure his opinion has evolved over time, and I don't really care what his opinion was. It's not to criticize him, but it was more because it got me thinking, like, these great hitters, the guys who are at the top of their respective leagues, I think are at some level tailoring their games to what they are most likely to see in the leagues that they are in. So, like, this idea that he was struggling, and that's been disputed, but struggling to hit velocity, the sample is so low. And, like, to me, it's like, I don't really even fucking care about his ability to hit velocity or not on this sort of sample, because I think he's probably going to lean into what he's going to have to face. The more interesting thing to me is actually not necessarily the velocity on fastballs or sinkers, two-seam, whatever. It's the velocity of the secondary stuff that I think is going to be the most interesting to see how he deals with that or adjusts or what he looks like against that. And I think in terms of his broader overall picture, this is a guy I personally, if I was running a larger market team, I could definitely sell myself on, because I think the upside, the idea that he does adjust and that maybe his training and his attention to detail from a physical preparation standpoint dials up in the United States with his access to what we have here and the expectations that he will have on his new contract, that tantalizes me. And I think the risk for a larger market team at the money that I'm at least seeing him associated with is very close to zero. And if he clicks, you have a 70, 80 grade power asset on your team in the middle of his career, the prime of his career. And if he doesn't, I think the year over year salary is not so much where you can't just kind of put him into a part-time role and just deal with it from there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a two-part thing though. Like to your point, it is something where they're adjusting to what they see the most. Like why 100%. Would I be, in the fucking cages telling my hitting coach, hey, jack this thing up to 98? Why? You're never going to see that. Like why, what good does that do me to be able to do that? And then the second part being Peter Appel from Just Baseball tweeted this a couple days ago. He said, not sure where the 095 stat against velocity came from. Against 93 plus, he had an 833 OPS, and against 95 plus, it was an 826 OPS. And again, like the same thing happened with Shohei. In 2017, he had one hit against 93 plus. So, I think that these guys are professionals. They are individuals who can just adjust to what they need to adjust to. And I mean, the talented ones will, but we're also talking about a dude that has the NPB single season home run record. Like there's talent there. There's power there. The average exit velocity was 96.5 in Japan this year. So that would have been the best mark in Major League Baseball in 2025. So if we're talking special talent, we're talking unique talent, I would say that this has a solid chance of being one.
I hear that though, and what I can't hear is that, and the fact that he has not faced elite velocity. I can't hear those two things in the same breath, because okay, great.
No, I'm just saying, like in terms of like how hard you can hit the baseball.
Sure, but that's because he's been able to get to the baseball because he's not being overpowered, and he hasn't had to make any sort of adjustments to that, because the idea of planting a seed, that exists because of what the velocity represents and what the combination of the movement can do. So if I plant the seed of 98, guess what? You want to make sure that you don't get beat by 98. Well, when I snap off an 87 mile an hour slide piece, that's either going straight the fuck down or it's taking an 18-inch left turn. You're going to have to get ready for one of those two. You're going to have to sell out to one of those two. And your ability to make that adjustment is what we right now are discussing. So I can appreciate the fact that he's been able to punish the baseball that is essentially floating in there compared to what he's going to face regularly. And that's why the intrigue is what it is. Because I know that the adjustment made when it comes to velocity is one that can make or break a hitter's approach. And it's where you see hitters get exposed in their inability to adjust. That's when you see hitters get exposed because they don't have a game plan or they don't have an understanding of what they're trying to do or how they could be potentially attacked. And I think when you're able to put all that together, that's when you start to see hitters make those adjustments. But the last piece of that is your physical ability to get to the baseball. And when we're talking about 3 miles an hour, I mean, what the average fastball today is fucking 94 miles an hour. Right? So the average fastball is harder than one of the best bolts he's going to see or has seen.
Right. Yeah. What percentage chance do you have him on going back to Japan, just not even finding a team?
How old is he? Was he 25, 26?
He'll be 26. He was 25 this year.
I think it could very well be like this. This could very well be just a curb feeler, like let's see how close we can get to the market that we think we were entertaining. And if that's not something that's materializing, well, I know what I can do. I know who I am. So why don't I just go put another season like that together? And maybe that reassures these teams that were skeptical for whatever reason. So I don't think it feels like it's a US or bust type of situation for him. But I do think that guys more and more want to capitalize on what they're doing in that league because of what teams here stateside are seeking. And you've talked about the potential 70, 80 grade power that he comes with. I mean, that's a hell of a hit if it clicks. That's a hell of a hit.
Yeah. To me, now is the perfect time. And it's as simple as that it gives him an opportunity to land potentially 2 MLB contracts. He can sign this deal, and he will be young enough to perhaps even cycle out of that deal completely and sign a new deal at a time where he's not so old that people would be adverse to giving him a 4, 5, 6-year deal in a second deal. So I know that's maybe not the single most important factor, but I do think if he's interested in coming over, now is a potentially great time. And I listen, I don't know what his expectations were going into the process, but I would be at least a little surprised if he goes back without any sort of contract at all, because it just feels like this is a level of power that I guess I'd like to see play at the major league level, and I think these guys would like to see play at the major league level too, and that's why it's always such an allure for them.
Would you go as high as $100 million for Murakami?
Over how many years?
Yeah.
5?
That's what I was going to say. You thinking a 5-year piece? I mean,
so that's Jorge Polanco's average annual value over a 5-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I would be interested in thinking about. Yeah, and what was the Yoshida deal?
5 for 90.
Okay, I know that hasn't worked. I know that's been a bad deal, but in terms of like the expectations for what he could sign for, I mean, it feels like Murakami is coming over with at least more upside than Masataka Yoshida was ever projected to have, at the very least. So yeah, that number would seem to align for me as well.
Well, yeah, we're talking about
Yoshida was supposed to be able to play left field when he came over, and then he did that for 1 year, and then the Red Sox said, if you even look at that grass.
Well, to hell with left field. I mean, we're talking about a skill. Like, we're not talking about either one of these individuals' ability to play defense.
Right.
That's not what we're bringing them over here for. All right.
No.
Period. But it's about what you provide offensively.
Value to at least being able to fucking stand out there.
Well, that's what Murakami's going to be doing. He's going to be standing at first base.
Right. But Yoshida can't do that. He can't stand anywhere.
Well, he's healthy this year, Jared.
The dugout, man. No, he looks great. He looks really good, and we're very excited about him. And no, he's going to be a big part of our team. And if somebody were to call us and offer us something for them, we would say, no, thank you. But just in case, what is that you're offering? What is it? It's nothing? Okay, we accept.
I think Coley said it best, when the Red Sox, they just made the Sonny Gray deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. The fact that the guy who signed him originally, Chaim Bloom, didn't even want him back in that deal, like when money was being exchanged hands, like that's pretty damning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good teammate, though, from what
hell of a teammate, hell of a guy.
Yeah.
Hell of a vibes guy. Just doesn't fit, unfortunately. The Giants are showing interest in Cody Bellinger. This feels like a runaround, no? I think he's going to end right back up with the Yankees.
If I'm Cody Bellinger, I'm looking at center field and right center and right field going, all good, bro. All good. I think I'm going to eat in the Bronx. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, you can play first base, but that's
no.
Raffy.
I mean, like offensively, you want me to pick on the fucking that triples alley? You want me to deal with no, I'm good. I'm all good.
Yeah. I do want to say this, though. Speaking of Rafi, we had the Section 10 Christmas party for all religions and atheists featuring John Bon Jovi at Polar Park on Saturday, and banged the place out. It was awesome. A lot of people showed up, but I don't know if it was because it was in the spirit of like the holiday season, but we've done a lot of, events with fans and like getting the chance to talk to people. I would say this one, for whatever reason, had the most like stories of, mental health and being like, the show got me through this and that, talking about baseball is dead, talking about Section 10, people telling me about their mental health journeys and seeking out therapy. The most that I think I've ever experienced in a single event with listeners. So that was awesome to hear because they were all success stories. They're like, no one was coming over being like, man, I'm really struggling. I need help right now. It was a lot of like, yeah, like I was struggling. And then, you guys talk about BetterHelp and I'm a lot better now. Like it was all success stories, but,
I mean, why don't you just come out and say it? In spite of what Craig Breslow has done to your fan base, you guys are powered through. I mean, those are your words, not mine. I'm just saying like this would be the time for you to say that now.
You cut out, but I'm probably glad that I didn't hear what you just said. The holidays are a time of traditions. Some people have many in their family, while some have none or are just beginning their own. Now's the time to reflect on what they mean to you or to rewrite those traditions and make your own, like perfecting a new hot chocolate recipe with the kids or continuing your great aunt's sweet potato pie. Incorporating therapy into your new or existing traditions can help ensure you take the time for yourself during what can be a very joyful but sometimes hectic and lonely time of the year. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people came up and said that they had gotten into online therapy and that it was very helpful for them, which is really cool to hear, when we talk about BetterHelp on the podcast. And it feels like more and more we hear people are getting into online therapy and finding it very, very beneficial to them. So that's awesome. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps you identify your needs and preferences, and their 12 plus years of experience and industry leading match fulfillment rate means that they typically get it right the first time. If you aren't happy with your match, you can switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recommendations. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This December, start a new tradition by taking care of you, and our listeners get 10% off at betterhelp.com/baseball. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/baseball. Interestingly enough, Tyler Glasnow has been told he's not going anywhere. After all that. Is that a wise thing to do in a situation where teams have come calling, and especially Tarek Skubal is the name that you've been linked to in a trade, and you're gonna go and tell that player, hey man, don't worry, sit tight. What if the Tigers are like, you know what, fuck it. We'll do Skubal. We'll do Glasnow for Skubal straight up. Yeah, why? Like, what? There's really no benefit to telling a player that they're not going to get traded unless you're really like they're your franchise player and you really want to calm them and they're sensitive. Like, love Tyler Glasnow to death, would take a bullet for him, but he's not the Dodgers franchise player. So why say that?
And I feel the exact same way about Tyler Glasnow. Everything that he's been through, the injury shit that he's had to deal with, just getting himself back to being the guy that we all saw early. We're hoping he was going to continue to become and turn into. Like, the only universe in which Tarek Skubal and Tyler Glasnow are traded straight up for each other is a universe where the Tigers know that Tarek Skubal is going to pitch right-handed from here on out. That's the only time that they entertain a swap like that. With that being said, I think the only benefit that can be had is by trying to calm a player's nerves and allow them to go into or continue their offseason preparation. I mean, hell of a year for Tyler Glasnow, right? He got 2 rings, some life-changing moments for this dude, and incredible for him. But I got to think that that's the only other perspective you can take is they're doing this just to kind of reassure him that, hey, you're ours, you're a part of this equation moving forward. And I've even seen him sort of, add commentary to the idea of Tarik Skubal being a part of the team. And I think what you're getting at, Jared, and maybe you don't want to just come out and say it, which I understand, but wouldn't that suck if Tyler Glasnow is a guy who has talked about being confirmed that he's not going anywhere, and then shifts gears to talking about how cool it would be that Tarik Skubal joins the fold, and then eventually finds himself wearing a D on his hat, but it's an Old English D, and it ain't that Dodgers Road U or that Dodgers, alternate. It's a Detroit Tigers hat. Like that would be a hell of a chain of events to unfold. It would feel like, man, I absolutely just got snowballed, and why? So like for me, why would you even put a guy like Tyler Glasnow in that spot? Like you love him, you appreciate him, he's as good as he's ever been for you. Why would you want to even do that to him? And it's almost like you're better off allowing the business of this game to just be what it is and let it exist, right? Does everybody need that reassurance? Does everybody need the, hey man, you're going to be fine, you're not going anywhere? There are players who do need that. I don't know that he's one of them. I feel like he's a pretty mentally strong individual. And I think he would know wherever he goes, he's going to instantly help them. Whichever team he lands on, he's going to help them. But I'm not sure that the benefit outweighs the negative impact that could happen if he does indeed find himself moving.
Justin Havens.
I don't think he would have been given this impression if he was actually in the mix to be moved for Tarik Skubal. I just don't think that's how they're going to do business there at this point with people who have been key pieces to World Series wins. And I don't know how that makes the Skubal thing work, or maybe it's not happening. But it would certainly suck if he had the rug pulled out from him in this sort of situation. But
I would be fucking furious, Jay. Like, not if I was him.
Oh, just
me
in general,
personally,
yeah, for
Dallas,
Tyler, yeah,
I would be fucking furious for him. Yes, I would want to yell at somebody. I'd be angry, man. Like, come on, you don't do that to a guy like this. You just, yeah.
No disrespect to the city of Detroit, but to be a 2-time champion living in Los Angeles as Tyler Glasnow versus getting shipped to a Detroit team that, if they were to make such a trade, would be less competitive, presumably, than they were otherwise. That would be a tough shift in the middle of your career when you're trying to rack up the accolades and the wins and stuff like that.
And imagine what kind of salt he would be coming with.
Oh yeah,
like I can trust nobody other than my immediate family. That's it. That's all I can trust. Like, everything you're saying to me is my new organization. I appreciate how fluffy you want to make this. I can't believe a word you're saying. And you can't look at me like, you can't look at me sideways. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. Do you understand what just happened to me? I was just assured. I was just guaranteed that I would not be here. And now I'm here. What are you going to tell me? Because that team, they were world beaters. What are you going to tell me to make me feel better? Nothing.
I also I don't know. I understand that the Tarik Skubal rumors are just going to continue pretty much until the trade deadline. Like, we're stuck with this for the next 7 months. But I don't know. I just, for whatever the Tigers are going to be asking for, knowing that there's a less than 1% chance Skubal signs an extension before reaching free agency, I don't know what benefit it could possibly have to give up those pieces unless you're the Dodgers and you're just an asshole and you want to just guarantee the three-peat, then yeah, sure. But like any other team, no, I'm not giving up what it would cost for 1 year of Skubal.
And I would say this, Tarek Skubal is in a position and where he I don't think anybody questions his value at this point. You should not. But if I'm going to be traded, and this is what I'm telling Scott Boras, Scotty, pick up the phone, sure. But we already have an idea of what number we're going to be asking for. And you've already done the math. You've already put these numbers together. You've ran the algorithm multiple times. If I fall on my face and have an ERA north of 5, and I, for whatever reason, only make 12 to 15 starts, and things just look completely different than they have the last 2 years, we have a number that we're going after. So pick up the phone, and if we're moving, you let them know that that's the number. That is the number. Otherwise, they have zero chance of recouping me either. So let them know that. They want to move anybody? They want to move prospects? They want to bring me into town? Fantastic. This is the number that they're going to have to meet at the end of this season. And we're not going to wait until the end of this season to meet that. They're going to meet it now. Otherwise, I'll make my starts, I'll finish the season, and guess where I'll be going? To free agency.
So say, all right, perfect example, Dallas, right? So say, I don't even care what the fucking team is. It's not the Dodgers. Say Skubal gets traded to the Mets and Uncle Stevie says 350 will make you the highest paid pitcher.
Sorry. No.
And
nope.
I'm like, all right, so you're making me the highest paid pitcher in baseball history by total dollars. If you're willing to do it, there's another team that's willing to go to 350. There may be 3 teams willing to go to 350. So then my number is inherently going to be 375. Let's see if we can get to 400. So you could trade for him, make him an offer that would make him the richest pitcher in baseball history, and that's only going to fuel his excitement to get to free agency, because if you're willing to do it, how many other teams are willing to do it? And if there's 3 teams willing to do it, then that means I'm getting more than 350.
Oh, and there's without a doubt going to be a Heyman mystery team, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just know that. That's why I said.
Thank you, John. Believe it.
So you better come correct. You better come correct. And I'll be honest, I don't know that you can come correct enough to lock that dude up other than what would be an egregious overpay.
That's one of those guys that I think I'd be happy to overpay, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask that.
Anyways.
Yeah, give him whatever he wants.
Last thing for me here, I think this could be like a language barrier thing too. It came across as quite the slight, but Edwin Diaz said that he signed with the Dodgers because he wants to win. And does that mean that he didn't feel like he had a chance to win with the Mets? No, I don't think that he meant it that way. But, you know, when you're sifting, I think where this comes across as a slap in the face, and Mets fans should probably feel this way. If you sign with the Dodgers because you wanted a chance to win, and the Mets were within $3 million of what the Dodgers offered you, which is what the case was here, then that's when it's a slap in the face. Yeah. So, I don't know. I just would have felt some type of way about it. But I mean, like, Mets fans, they've been eating shit all winter, and I hate it for them because their season was eating shit, and then it continues in. Like, I wanted them to have an off season where it was like, all right, we're back up. Now it's like we've never been more down. I hate it.
But Jared, Juan Soto,
right.
Look at how shiny.
Mm-hmm. See, I just want it to be noted that this is a point where, you know, I would have normally called Clem. I'm not going to call Clem today. He's down. We didn't call Clem after Pete left. We didn't call Clem after Edwin left. We called them after the Nemo trade, though. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I want to talk to him when we're this close to sinking that needle into his ass and Grimace comes out on the other end of it. That's that's when I want to talk to Clem, because he wants nothing more to come on when that's going to happen.
Right.
So that's what I want to hear from Clem. Right now, it is that is just gasoline on the fire that's burning, and that Yuletide log is already aflame. So no need to do any more damage right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it's that time.
How good can you be? MVP.
It's my pleasure to announce this year's NL Cy Young Award winner.
My Cy Young Award winner.
All right, this is one Dallas enjoys, of course, because it is the 89 Cy Young. So we get to talk pitching. 1989. So we've got Brett Saberhagen and Mark Davis. So, we've had some star-studded versions of the revisit lately. This is maybe on the lower end. Brett Saberhagen, although, is going to get a little bit of his shine today. Let's do Brett Saberhagen first. So in 1989, when he won the award, it was his second career Cy Young Award. He had also won in 1985. Brett Saberhagen, for those who have not gone down the rabbit hole on him, is one of the most fascinating 80s, 90s pitchers I think that you can really dig into, particularly guys like when Amsinger was on the pod and he was talking about his show, Pack in Time, by the way, for those of you not familiar, check it out on MLB Network. The Brett Saberhagen is probably towards the higher end of the type of players that he's talking about there, but I do think he fits the bill of guys who history has started to kind of overlook a little bit to a degree. Brett Saberhagen at his absolute peak was nasty ass shit. And that obviously, he had 2 career Cy Young Awards, as I already said. He only received Cy Young votes at all in 3 seasons, and he won in 2 of the seasons that he did. So he played for how many seasons? 16 seasons, and in only 3 of those seasons did he receive even 1 Cy Young vote. 2 of them he won. So when he was on, and he got the hardware to go with it. He made, quote unquote, only 3 All-Star games and missed the All-Star game in 2 of the 3 seasons that he won the Cy Young. So, or the 2 seasons that he won the Cy Young.
MVP finishes too, Jayhay.
Yep. So he was, it was a little bit of lack of health. It was, varying levels of effectiveness, but generally when he was pitching, he was extremely good. And this is one of those seasons. He led Major League Baseball in wins, 23, ERA, 2.16, complete games, 12, innings pitched, 262 and a third, and K to walk ratio at 4.49. It's funny because 4.49 would barely register as a strikeout to walk ratio now. Certainly wouldn't be on any leaderboard, but that's obviously just how the game has changed. This was not a particularly outstanding season for AL Cy Young candidates, or for that matter, Cy Young candidates in general. It just was not a robust pitching season. And I think you're going to, as we go through this over time, not to disparage the 1980s, but I do feel like relative to certainly the era that came after, and in a lot of cases, the eras that came before, the 80s just lacked some of the all-time great seasons that were featured in some of the other decades. That doesn't mean that they had none of them. Obviously, we've highlighted Ricky a number of times, among other people, Dwight Gooden's 1985 and 86 campaigns, etc. But Saberhagen dominated the AL landscape. He also finished strong down the stretch to seal the deal. He received 27 of the 28 first place votes. Dave Stewart, shout out to the A's, of course. Dave Stewart finished second in the voting. He also was the only other person to receive a first place vote. Saberhagen posted a 0.90 ERA over his final 10 starts of the season, going 9-1 during that stretch. So he really put the pedal to the metal in terms of his candidacy here. This would be the last season of his career where he'd throw 200 or more innings in a season, and he'd only make 30 starts in a season once more in his career. And that was, interestingly enough, 1998 with Jared's Red Sox. In the previous season, Saberhagen had led the league in hits allowed. So again, the yin and yang of Brett Saberhagen. What does WAR say about this season? It says very nice things. He was the best pitcher in Major League Baseball by both F-WAR at 7.5 and B-WAR at 9.7. 9.7, that's a big number. It sure is. By B-WAR, it's tied for the 7th best pitching season by a right-handed pitcher in the last 40 years. The only pitchers to post better seasons over that span are Dwight Gooden, who we recently just talked about, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, and Zach Greinke. Those are the only right-handed pitchers to post better single-season wins above replacement over the last 40 years than what Saberhagen did in this season. Names you won't find on there. Greg Maddux, for example. The only pitchers in the last 40 years to have a season with at least 23 wins, an ERA below 2.20, and at least 260 innings pitched are Saberhagen in 1989 and Dwight Gooden in 1985. Also, stepping back, because I'm not even going to make the case for any other person, Brett Saberhagen is the clear, deserving winner of the 1989 AL Cy Young. But in terms of his overall career and appreciating that, whether you look at B-WAR 48.8 or F-WAR 45.6, Saberhagen was the second best pitcher in all of baseball over the 10-season span from 1985 to 1994, so right before the work stoppage. Clemens, Saberhagen, Gooden, Maddux, and Nolan Ryan. That's the top 5. Again, Clemens, Saberhagen, Gooden, Maddux, Nolan Ryan. The only pitchers with more career B-WAR than Saberhagen, who since the expansion era, who are not in the Hall of Fame: Schilling, Kershaw, Scherzer, Greinke, who obviously all will be, Kevin Brown, Rick Ruschel, David Cohn, Andy Pettitte, and Mark Burley. So,
Big Daddy.
So Brett Saberhagen, if you wanted to make and people have, I'm certainly not the first person to broach this idea, but if you wanted to make a Hall of Fame case for Brett Saberhagen, I don't think it's all that controversial. He was the second best pitcher, or if you want to say that WAR is off, he was a top 5 pitcher in Major League Baseball over a decade-long period of time. That sounds a lot like a Hall of Famer, and it's a lot like the case that is going to be made for Felix Hernandez, I think. And so if that helps you kind of put into perspective the run that Brett Saberhagen had over a 10-year period, then I think that's a fair comparison to make. He is keeping the AL Cy Young in 1989. Only other thing I'll note here before I turn it over to you guys, Oakland had the second and third finishers in Dave Stewart and Mike Moore. Again, they were nowhere close to unseating Saberhagen, either in voting or statistically, but interesting nonetheless. Nolan Ryan also produced a 301 strikeout season that also featured 19 wild pitches. So just a classic Nolan Ryan season. He finished 5th in the voting. Any thoughts on the 89 Cy Young?
I was just going to say, don't sleep on the fact that the green and gold were posting 3 top 10 candidates in Stu, Mo, and Eck. That's 3.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I did not include Eck. Yep.
Just like Bert Blyleven that year threw 241 innings with a 2.73 ERA, but he only struck out 131 batters. Which that's pitching, brother. To go up there and take the ball and throw 241 innings, but strike out half, like Jared, in terms of innings pitched.
The only guy in baseball, holy shit. The only guy in baseball that year who logged over 200 innings and received Cy Young votes that punched out 200 or more was Tim Belcher. Everybody else punched out less than 200. Tim Belcher, 230 innings, 200 strikeouts. Everybody else, Nolan. Nolan had 301.
But fun call out there by Jared, too, because Blyleven was, for a lot of his career, like one of the great strikeout artists in the league. And this was, with the bender, and this was in his age 38 campaign. So very much a throwback season. He was not very good in the season prior and not very good in any season after this. But talk about a guy who, like Saberhagen, was... and Bert Blyleven required an entire movement to get him into the Hall of Fame. Like, that was one of those candidacies that became a pet candidacy for a lot of people, and it was interesting because he'd only registered Cy Young votes in 4 seasons while playing in 22 years. 96 career wins above replacement for Bert Blyleven. The NL We will be taking some hardware away here, unfortunately, for Mark Davis. He had to have seen this coming. I mean, he's had a long time to prepare for this segment, so I'm sure he's come to grips with it emotionally. Mark Davis received 19 of the 24 first-place votes in the NL. Mike Scott, Greg Maddux, and a tie between Oral Hershiser and Joe McGrain in the NL. So Scott and Oral being the only other people to receive first place votes. Mark Davis's candidacy was on the back of leading Major League Baseball in saves. He had 44 saves. That was six more than the next most, which was Jeff Russell with 38. Wins above replacement, obviously an imperfect metric for relievers, but what does this say? It says by F-WAR, he was tied for the 30th best pitcher in the NL, and by B-WAR, which had him as twice as valuable as F-WAR, for what it's worth, he was still, quote-unquote, only the 8th best pitcher in the NL. So no traditional candidacy here for Mark Davis. Here's the deal, though, and we could spend a lot more time talking about this than I am going to. This is why he won the Cy Young. What?
Oh, no, I was just L's. L's is what I was getting at.
I see. Yeah. So you're right. That is not what I was going to say, but that is important. We will get to Oral in a second. But why Davis won the Cy Young? The season that he produced, which is 40-plus saves and a sub-2 ERA, was a lot more unique at the time than it feels to us now. And that doesn't mean it should have won the Cy Young then, because it shouldn't have, but it felt new. At the time that Davis produced this season, which again, 44 saves and a 1.85 ERA, that had only happened 40 plus and a sub-2 twice in Major League Baseball history. It has happened 54 times since then. Okay, so it's just not a thing anymore. And in terms of Cy Young voting, the only ones to win the Cy Young Award while producing such a season are Davis, Dennis Eckersley, and Eric Gagne. That's it. So really, really a historical oddity here, and one that we're going to rectify in a second, because it brings me great pleasure to be able to award a fake retroactive Cy Young Award to a former colleague of mine who now will have 2 Cy Young Awards on the board for his career. And in fact, this will give Oral, the Bulldog, back-to-back NL Cy Youngs. He won in 1988 when he produced a 23-8 record with a 2.26 ERA, a league-leading, MLB-leading 15 complete games, MLB-leading 8 shutouts, and NL-leading 267 innings. So I know we're not doing the 1988 revisit, but I read those statistics to you because context is always important. And in almost every way that's actually really matters, Oral Hershiser replicated his 1988 season in 1989. But what he did not do was produce the same wins and loss total, which is what Dallas was getting at a second ago. He went 23-8 in 88. He followed it up the next year by going 15-15, which we can all guess in 1989 was not a recipe to engender voting support. Dallas, go.
And in 88, that's when he broke Drysdale's scoreless inning streak of 58 and 2/3.
Yes.
Oral popped off 59 fucking goose eggs in a row.
So it was more spectacular in every way you can imagine. It was spectacular from what Dallas just said about the scoreless streak. It was more spectacular from his win-loss, from the gaudy number of complete games. He only had 8. I say only. He only had 8 in 1989, and he only had 4 shutouts. So he basically took his complete game and shutout totals and halved them from year over year. But his innings pitched total stayed nearly the same. His ERA stayed nearly the same. His underlying ERA indicator numbers actually improved. And he dropped to 4th in the Cy Young. And that's just not the way that it should be. Oral was first in the NL in F-WAR at 5.6. He was first in the NL in B-WAR at 7.0. Obviously, those numbers are not historically amazing Cy Young years, but they are definitely the most valuable season that was produced in 1989. And that's what matters here. On the surface, you could say, well, Mike Scott finished second. He went 20-10. Greg Maddux finished third. He went 19-12. That's fine. Mike Scott's ERA was 0.8 runs higher than Orel Hershiser's. He threw 30 fewer innings, and there was no added dominance factor. ERA plus says it's Orel. So we will be giving the 1989 NL Cy Young, taking it from Mark Davis, who has had it for more than his fair share of time, and giving it to the Bulldog, Orel Hershiser.
I love it.
He's going to have a nice glass of red with that, I think.
I love it. Well done. Well done, Orel. Good job.
Thank you.
Just a quick shout out to Greg Olson, who did receive what he got the Rookie of the Year, right?
Greg Olson did get the Rookie of the Year. Why are we shouting him out?
Oh, because he beat King Griffey Jr. out.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
That's
also
all.
beat out Jim Abbott,
Kevin Brown,
and Kevin Brown. Yeah,
and Flash Gordon,
and Craig Worthington. Let's just name them all. You know, we don't want to leave out Craig. Anyway, that was the revisit this week. That was pretty cut and dried, but I would encourage people to go take a look at Brett Saberhagen's page if you're looking to dive into a 1980s baseball player who's got an interesting Cy Young Hall of Fame case.
Yeah, I just appreciate a guy like Greg Young, who in his rookie year, you get AL Cy Young consideration and you win the Rookie of the Year in a year where King Griffey Jr. was popping off. Like,
sure.
I like that.
Yeah, it was a disgusting year, honestly, for relief pitcher attention. Like, that's my concluding thought, is that people got real obsessed with rewarding relief pitching this year because Eckersley, Olsen, and Russell finished sixth, the back end of the ballot, basically, in the AL. And Mitch Williams, who I think we all know does not belong anywhere near a Cy Young ballot. Mitch Williams, hold on. Sorry, this is the last thing I'm going to say on it. Mitch Williams got a Cy Young vote in a year where he walked 52 batters and allowed 71 hits in 81 2/3 innings. Like, that's not even like a good season. That's so much traffic.
Led the league in appearances, Jayhay.
I don't even like whip. A 1.51 whip. That's crazy. That's crazy for Cy Young.
You mentioned the 52 walks to 67 strikeouts.
Yeah, it was a high wire act every time out. The Phillies would learn that the hard way 4 years later. All right.
We should call Lenny Dykstra, see what he has to say about Mitch Williams.
Who do I have later this week?
You have the 1993 Cy Young Award.
Ooh. Okay. So we've got Blackjack McDowell in the AL. Led the league with 22 wins. That's always a tough way to start your candidacy. I don't like where that's headed. And Greg Maddux in the NL with the Bravos. I believe that was year one. Is that year one?
No.
What?
No. Blackjack did not win the AL Cy Young.
What? In 93?
Not in 93.
What year am I looking at? Yeah, he did.
Really? 93? What am I thinking? Am I thinking 90?
I don't know.
That was 92. That was 92. That was 92.
God.
My bad.
Yeah, you were about to white knight for Eck. Yeah.
My bad.
No, Blackjack and Maddux. The NL side is going to be, I think, particularly interesting to break down because there are 4 pitchers who racked up 20 plus wins. So we'll get to dive deep on some numbers. 1993, love it.
There you go. Family Feud.
Yep.
Back
Thursday.
on Thursday. But before we get out of here.
Thank you. We do have some nugs. Jorge Polanco's year-over-year drop in strikeout rate from 24, where it was 29%, to 25, where it was just under 16%, was the largest in Major League Baseball for any player with at least 400 plate appearances in each season. And in fact, it was basically double the next largest drop in strikeout rate, which was Goldschmidt Bangaliers and Luis Robert Jr. in the 7% range. So again, not even close. Adolis Garcia, he signed with the Phillies right before the podcast broke. That's a 1-year, $10 million deal per the reporting. Garcia's 278 on base percentage was the lowest of the 120 Major League Baseball batters with at least 1,000 plate appearances across 24 to 25. Also worth noting that the Phillies outfielders ranked 21st in Major League Baseball last season with a cumulative weighted runs created plus of 95. So this kind of feels like a version of Castellanos, Nick Castellanos with better defense. So I don't know that Adolis Garcia is going to produce much, but it feels like pretty low risk move there. His breaking ball slugging percentage has dropped from 537 to 452 to 393 over the last 3 seasons. So that's a little bit of an alarm bell there. Josh Bell, he's going to the Twins. Isn't that exciting? Josh Bell's OPS against left-handers has gone from 854 to 705 to 552, while his OPS against right-handers has gone from 697 to 734 to 804. So he's ships passing in the night. His production against as far as platoon split goes. So what level of predictability that has, I'm not sure. Dustin May signed with the Cardinals, 95 pitchers who logged at least 130 innings pitched in 2025. His ERA ranked 80th. His xERA was 86th. His FIP was 81st, tied for, and his xFIP, it got better. It was tied for 71st. See if Heim can dig something out from him there. The complete list of AL position players who finished ahead of Maikel Garcia in F4 last season: Aaron Judge, Cal Raleigh, Bobby Witt Jr., Joe Ram, Julio Rodriguez, and Jeremy Pena. So again, I know we talked on it before, but there were not many people who were better than him last season. And then lastly, I'll just note Kyle Finnegan's splitter usage by month has was in the 25% range before the deal and jumped to north of 60% prior to or after the trade. And those are the Nuggs. I do have a final thought when we get to that, though, that are not Nugg related.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a bummer or whatever, but we haven't talked about this topic, and I just can't get this out of my fucking head. Like, I read the news on the Tyler Skaggs trial over the weekend, and I just can't let it go. Like, I cannot let it go that Dan Duquette was paid by the Angels to get up on the stand and argue against the future career earnings and future value of a dead person. And I get that everybody has a job to do and that court trials go the way that they go. But you are making a choice when you accept that role and accept that in a trial. And I'm going to read an excerpt quickly from Sam Blum's reporting on The Athletic. Duquette's comments at times focused on statistics that didn't align with Skaggs' overall performance. One of his presentation slides was titled, "Tyler Skaggs was in decline," citing year-over-year dips in curveball spin rate and fastball velocity from 2016 through his death. The quality eroded significantly, Duquette said, due to his, quote, unreliability and, quote, unavailability stemming from injuries. However, in nearly every statistical metric, Skaggs' performance was improving at the time of his death. He'd posted a career-best 1.8 WAR and 4.02 ERA in 2018. In 19, through exactly half a season, Skaggs had 1.1 WAR and on pace for a career-best year. He led the team in strikeouts and innings pitched, and past testimony from other Angels witnesses referred to him as the club's ace that year. Quote, Duquette was asked by Skaggs' lawyer Daniel Dutko if in 2019, when Skaggs started 15 games, was on pace to be his healthiest season. Duquette said no, offering that 2016 was actually Skaggs' healthiest season. However, in 2016, Skaggs made only 10 starts and missed more than half the year recovering from Tommy John surgery. Before Duquette testified, the Angels called Walters, a sports economist, who testified that he used BaseballReference.com's similar players tool to find the best comparisons to Skaggs. On cross-examination, Walters was asked why that list included numerous relievers when Skaggs was a starter. The list also included several pitchers whose careers ended at age 27 and several more who were born in the 1940s and pitched before the mound was lowered in 1969. Dutko noted language on Baseball Reference website saying similar players comparison tool can be unreliable. Walters also argued that Skaggs was not a good comp for lefty starter Patrick Corbin, who ultimately made more than $100 million in free agency, even though Walters' initial list of comparable players included Corbin. I would check out the whole article if you're interested in this in a perverse way. I just, not only are people selling themselves to testify against a dead person's future earnings on behalf of a team, they are doing so in an inaccurate and sloppy fucking way. If you think these people that are getting paid to testify, this is an actual ex-GM and a sports economist who are using tools in a court of law that I would not use on this fucking podcast because I have higher standards. Like, that's what we're talking about here. I just think the whole thing is such a disgusting disgrace. And I don't know Dan Duquette from Adam, and I don't care to, but the idea that anybody, particularly a person who had a robust career in both the actual sport and media and shouldn't be whoring themselves out for this sort of purpose, would take the stand and say these sorts of things and not even use good information to do it is abhorrent. And those are my final thoughts.
Took a paycheck to play dumb is all that amounts to. Took a paycheck to play dumb. And that's, I'm glad you brought it up, Jay. I thought we might have talked about it because I do think it bears acknowledging, and I'm glad you did so. It's one of those things where, I mean, and I think Angels fans would agree with this. This is a reflection of leadership. This is a reflection of the individuals at the very tip top. That's what that is. And I think the direction that the Angels have gone and continue to head is an indictment on that as well.
And I know the Angels in some ways are fighting for their lives on this. Like, I'm not defending them in that sense. I know that they are a corporation that feels they need to take the protective steps that they need to avoid paying out hundreds of millions of dollars in whatever. Dan Duquette doesn't fucking have to do this. He doesn't have to do this. And he chose to do this for a fee, presumably. And that's what the Angels are gross. An individual making this decision and being like, this guy ran a fucking baseball team and this guy's a sports economist and he's talking about baseball references, similar players comparison tool. And it's like, what are we fucking doing?
And that's the idea, Jay, is this is an individual who was, at the forefront of using advanced analytics to evaluate players and find value in them. And in this instance, he's choosing to ignore that and essentially try to turn this into an arbitration case when that is the last thing you should be doing. That is.
Anyway, sorry to be a downer, but I just couldn't let that go.
No. My final thought, on a lighter note, shout out to the Royals for trying to make their team just a little bit better. They traded Zerpa. They went and got Isaac Collins and Nick Mears. So you lose an impactful left-hander whose number might not reflect that he had a great season. It was really just about a tough finish to the season and maybe one blow up early in the year. But they do go and get Isaac Collins, who switch hitter. Probably a little better from the left side than he is the right, but he can play infield, he can play outfield. We know that they've been trying to upgrade their outfield in Kansas City because the numbers last year tell you they were the worst or among the worst in a lot of important offensive categories. So the Royals still trying to figure things out, but making an effort to do so.
I just want to get in on being on the Zerpa side of this because I don't know dick about Zerpa, but the Brewers are acquiring a relief pitcher, and I feel like we're going to be talking about in July how he's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah,
like,
Zerpa, all the boys in KC love him.
Yeah. When I hear the Brewers say that this is a guy we've been trying to access for a long time, I get very nervous.
Yeah, like, well, they fucking got Jared Koenig throwing a hundo, so
yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll be back on Thursday. And the MLB Classic rewatch Thursday night. Family Feud on Thursday. It'll be fun times. You want a special guest, Dallas, or no?
I would love one. Bring me that bag of milk.
He can't. He works during the day.
Then I don't know. I don't know if I want. I'll have to think about it.
All right. You let me know. We'll figure it out.
All right.
All right. We'll see you then.
Wow.